Um, I love the fact that in your book you bring up cults a lot because it is kind of like being in a cult of one, right? Though they could have other women, as we know many of them do. Could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So this is another Psych 101 kind of thing. If you ever took a psychology class, you learned about Pavlov's dogs and like this
Hmm.
idea that there would be some kind of an intrinsic value in like food, and the bell would be rung at the same time they would give food, and they end up figuring out that the dog would salivate even just at the sound of the bell. So it didn't need to have the food. So what happens with human beings, and we are very much like Pavlov's dogs, so we will be responding to reinforcers. We will be responding to positive and negative reinforcers, very much in that vein. So none of us are immune to mind control. All of us are vulnerable to those kinds of scenarios. We see that in bigger cults. But yeah, being in a relationship with a narcissist is to be in a cult. And when I had that aha moment, I was talking to Mark Vicente from the Nexium cult,
Right, right.
and I was like, oh my God, I was in a cult. And like, nobody says I'm in a cult. Like, when you're in a cult, you're like, oh yeah, I love this cult. I mean, it's so bizarre, and the book is really aimed to destigmatize that experience, because
Hmm.
that's all it is. You're in a cult. You're either in a cult of one, a cult of a few, as you mentioned. If there's a gaggle of supply, you can be in a family cultic system with a narcissist at the helm. And then we see it in very large political climate, stuff like that. But it is exactly that. It is a cult.
And, you know, your book covers recovering, like breaking the cycle, getting over narcissistic abuse. What are some tips you would give women for that?
Yeah, I think in dialectical behavioral therapy, we go to the five senses. If we want to get grounded, or if we want to remember who we are, we become attached to things like images that are particularly nostalgic, or a meal that smells like our childhood, or a song that reminds us of things. So that's when you become connected to who you really are. And what they do is they remove that you become not who you are. You lose yourself. So you want to kind of go back to who that person is. If you are growing up in a cult, it's a little bit more challenging. Or if you have a narcissistic parent, it's a little more challenging, because then you really have to build out who you are. You have to develop a sense of identity. And it's a scary uphill battle, but it's also extremely exciting. You have a blank slate, like, here goes, what are we going to do here? What do I really like to do? And then you have to run those thoughts through the lens of like, who you are versus, well, I don't want to do that because my mom told me I shouldn't do that, or I'm going to do that because my mom told me I shouldn't do that. Either way, mom, who is the toxic mom in this scenario, still has control over your thoughts, right? You have to sort of really pause and ask yourself, do I really want to buy that red car? Why do I want to buy that red car? Or why do I want to do that thing?